Guys, you need to watch this video especially if you have the young kids and you want to travel. Or maybe you just wonder why do kids scream in the airplane. Well, as an airline pilot, I have the scientific answer to that. As an example, this video I filmed during my vacation to Antalya. That's the landing in Antalya airport. Well, this time it wasn't that loud, but sometimes it's very noisy. According to the scientists, the scream of baby is one of the most irritating things that we understand as the human beings. Because from the evolution perspective, we should react on this specific irritating thing, that something is not right with the baby. We should provide some comfort to him or her, feed with milk, take it to the shelter, to the cave in a good comfortable temperature. And babies, infants, they cannot tell, so they scream. They try to send us the signal. They do not scream just because they want. So for us to understand the nature why it happens, especially in the airplane, we need to open the flight crew manual of Boeing 737, for example, but you can do it with any kind of the aircraft type. I just flown this one, so I'm quite familiar with one of the systems, which is called the air system, so pressurization of the airplane and air conditioning. Don't be afraid of this scheme, it's just a part of the explanation. Let me show you the other picture. Like this one at first, it could be more understandable. So then you fly, for example, at 36,000 feet of the altitude, which is the average commercial flight level for most of the airplanes. Your outside pressure is 3.3 psi, but at the ground level it could be much higher because you have less molecules in the air than you're high, so the less molecules you have, the less pressure you basically have. But what's the cabin altitude? Do we really have the altitude of the cabin? Apparently yes. So as average, if you fly at 36,000 feet, your cabin altitude is roughly 7,000, which is, I would say, kind of comfortable for most of the people. So the idea is to take the pressurized air from the engine and to let it into the cabin compartment and also cockpit. You just push more pressure to the airplane than you fly high for everyone to stay comfortable and, I would say, conscious, because without this system you would lose consciousness in a matter of minutes and sometimes even seconds. So flying the airplane is the same as you would climb the 7,000 feet mountain. It's okay, it's fine, but you feel the pressure change. How can you feel it? Well, mostly it's the individual aspect. But mostly you feel like your ears are getting clogged and you need to swallow your saliva or to eat or drink something to unblock your ears to hear normally. Or maybe if you have the leaky nose, you feel uncomfortable in this area. And it's all connected to how nature designed us humans with our ear system and nasal system. Maybe sinuses it's better to call. I am not a doctor, but they have some of the names. And for us, this one is important. It's called, I guess, euthenical tube. And that basically connects our internal ear with the space inside our mouth and nose. And it is basically used to level the pressure inside your middle ear. So let's say you're climbing. It could be airplane, it could be a multi-story building. The pressure outside your ear drops, so you have this movement. And for your eardrum plus all of the space not to expand, you have this tube that compensates the pressure for everything not to be like curved or clogged in the case. But if you have some infection, some of the anomaly, or if you climb or descend, by the way, really fast, this tube might not be okay with leveling the pressure. So this side here, it's like a bottle. It starts to expand or shrink, depends whether you climb or descend. And you might feel uncomfortable and sometimes even pain. But actually there is the life hack how you can open this tube. You can basically swallow your saliva, drink something, or in some rare cases you can close your nose and blow, but it's kind of risky because if you have the nasal infection you might do some harm to your sinuses, so I do not recommend to blow really your nose. If you're a diver, you know it, so divers do this stuff on a regular basis. if they want to go down. In water, there's dramatic change of the pressure, and if you go like even 3 meters down, you need to blow because you'll feel the pain. So for the air traveling, it's not that critical as for divers. But even here it might be uncomfortable, especially for babies and infants, because that particular tube for infants is not that developed as in adults. It's very thin, there could be lots of mucus, and infants in general, like babies, their immune system is not that robust as for adults, so for them to get infection is the usual thing. So they start to scream, especially during climb and descent. Then there is more or less rapid change of the cabin pressure. In horizontal flight, with some time, pressure levels inside the middle ear and outside pressure, so for them it should be comfortable. But in some rare cases it might not be leveled, so they continue to scream. So what do you need to do as a parent, and my recommendation for you if you fly with infants? Give them some water. Or if they're on breastfeeding, breastfeed them especially during climb and descent. It will make their lives way easier, because by swallowing something they will unblock this tube. It's the same than you swallow your saliva. So during drinking, swallowing is the best solution in this case. I also have a child, she's 11, and we used to travel quite a lot at some period of the time that she was infant, and it was some sort of the life hack which usually helped. But then I fly as a passenger now, I see people with infants. Those infants scream, and parents just don't know what to do with infant. It's kind of frustrating. So that's why I basically record this video. But again, with sinuses infection, it is the different story a little. There is no such a life hack. So if you have like inflammation of your sinuses, it could be really painful, and there is no cure than you're in the air. But again, closing your nose and blowing, then you have inflammation. It's very risky. Everything there is interconnected, and bacteria may go to very different places. Well, at least our doctors didn't recommend us to do that blowing maneuver. Only if you know that you're healthy. Once I got this sinusitis inflammation, I decided, okay, I'll fly. But it was a terrible flight for me. I nearly made it. The pain was really severe, especially on descent. On approach it was okay already, but during the middle stage of descent it was really terrible over here and over here. And after that I took several days off just to cure it. But you may say, Dennis, why not to pressurize the airplanes for them to stay not at 7,000 feet but just on the ground level? Like you fly the airplane, but it would be the same as staying at the sea level. Well, in that case, guys, the differential pressure between the real airplane altitude and zero level altitude would be just enormous. And the airplane fuselage is similar to this bottle, so it has the skin, it has some of the reinforced elements, but it is not made out of the heavy material. No, airplanes should be light to fly. So what happens with the airplane fuselage every time it flies? You just don't see it, but there are some of the forces created by the differential pressure from inside of the fuselage and also from outside. So to avoid the structural damage of the fuselage, we need to limit the forces which are acting on it, the forces which are created by the differential pressure. And for this reason, airplanes are still pressurized, but at a certain altitude, which is commonly comfortable for most of the people, but not for everyone, especially for infants. And some of the airlines decided to introduce the exclusive adults-only zones on flights. A Turkish-Dutch Corendon has unveiled its latest game changer, the adults-only zone. Starting November the 3rd, this innovative airline is rolling to kid-free heavens for flights between Amsterdam and Curaçao. Or how do you call this city? So Corendon Airlines already have it. Well, honestly guys, if I was like really tired, I would book those particular places, because again, baby screams are the most annoying stuff for our mind, our brain. It's normal, it's done by nature. But some of the young kids that they are more adult than infants, they may cry because they're just scared. If they do not fly really often, it could be a new environment for them, so it's up to the parents to describe and tell kids that everything is okay, we're gonna fly, it's like a game. You'll see our Earth from above, so there should be some of the explanation down. Why is it happening? What's the environment we are now in? So do whatever you can to comfort your kid. And just brief explanation may help with everything. Or, changing the attention. My daughter loves, for example, entertainment system on board if it is there, like movies, cartoons. That helps a lot, but it's up to airline whether they want to equip their airplanes with the entertainment systems. And you can rarely find those if the airline is low cost and fly short haul flights. So yeah guys, it's all what I want to say today. Peaceful skies as usual.